I realized my family had forgotten my birthday on a Wednesday morning. It wasn't a special Wednesday. No holidays, no big news. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just another quiet morning. I woke up early, the way I always do. Made myself a cup of coffee and sat by the window like I have for years. The same worn armchair, the same chipped mug, the same view of the maple tree that's been standing outside since my husband built this house. That morning, I remember looking at the calendar hanging on the fridge. It had little notes scribbled in blue pen, grocery lists, doctor appointments, the garbage pickup schedule. And then, written in faded ink, right there in the corner, was my name. Mom's birthday. It looked almost silly, seeing it written there like that, as if I needed reminding, but still I smiled at it. I thought maybe one of the kids would call early. They used to, years ago, when birthdays meant something. I set out 2 slices of toast and scrambled an egg. I even put a candle on the table. Just a little one, from an old pack I had left in the drawer. I don't know why I did it. Maybe out of habit. Maybe because I wanted the morning to feel a little different. But as I sat there eating, the house felt quieter than usual. Even the clock ticking on the wall seemed louder. By noon, I hadn't heard a word from anyone. No calls, no messages, not even one of those little happy birthday texts people send when they remember at the last minute. I tried to convince myself maybe they were busy. Life gets in the way sometimes, doesn't it? I washed the dishes slowly, hoping to distract myself. I turned on the radio, the same old station I always listened to. And the host was talking about how birthdays lose their magic as you get older. I remember laughing softly, thinking, well, maybe that's true. But deep down, I didn't believe it. Not really. Because birthdays aren't about the cake or the candles. They're about being remembered. Around 2 o'clock, I decided to bake a little cake for myself. Just a small one. Yellow cake, my favorite. I mixed the flour, sugar, and eggs by hand, humming quietly. It was something to do, something to fill the silence. The smell of the cake baking filled the kitchen, and for a moment it felt warm again. I almost imagined that someone would knock on the door. Maybe my daughter with her kids, holding a balloon and smiling like old times. But the door never opened. When the cake was done, I let it cool on the counter, then cut a small slice and sat down again. I whispered to myself, "Happy birthday, Evelyn." It felt strange saying my name out loud like that, but someone had to say it, I suppose. The sun started to dip low behind the trees, painting the kitchen in soft orange light. I checked my phone again. Nothing, not a single message. My heart felt heavy, not broken, just heavy. There's a difference. Broken hearts cry out loud, but heavy hearts just sit there quietly, trying not to make a sound. When evening came, I made a pot of tea and turned on the lamp in the corner. The phone stayed silent. I sat in my chair, looking at the framed pictures on the wall. My children as toddlers, smiling in the backyard. My late husband holding the baby in his arms. Birthday parties from years long gone. I remember one photo especially. Me holding a cake while my youngest, Emma, blew out the candles. Her hair was tied in little pigtails, and she was laughing so hard she could barely breathe. Those moments used to fill the house with life, with love, with sound. Now all that's left is quiet. I thought maybe they'd remember the next day. Maybe call and laugh about how they'd lost track of time. But they didn't. A week passed, and then 2. Then a month. No one said a word. It wasn't like them. Not at first. My kids used to be thoughtful. You know, we weren't perfect, but we were close. After their father passed, I thought we'd grown even closer. We needed each other. But time changes people. And distance, well, distance does something to the heart. It makes you forget how much someone once mattered. The next time my daughter called, it was about something small. A recipe she wanted for Thanksgiving. We talked like nothing had happened. I waited for her to mention it, even casually. A late, "Oh, Mom, I just realized we missed your birthday." But she didn't. She didn't say a word. I could hear her kids in the background, laughing about something on the TV, and I remember thinking, They probably don't even know when my birthday is anymore. I hung up that night feeling small, forgotten. But I smiled through it anyway, because what else can you do? I told myself, it's okay, Evelyn. Maybe next year will be different. But the next year came, and the year after that, and still no one remembered. Not once. It's funny how time can blur things. You'd think forgetting a birthday would only sting once. Just that first time. But when it happens again and again, it starts to change something inside you. It's not a sharp pain anymore. It's more like a dull ache that never really goes away. The next year, I didn't even bother circling the date on the calendar. I took it down altogether, actually. The whole calendar. I remember standing in the kitchen, looking at it hanging there with all those blank squares and thinking, what's the point of keeping track when no one else does? Still, as that day came closer, I could feel it in my bones. I didn't need a reminder. My body just knew. Like muscle memory. I woke up that morning with the same quiet hope, even though I told myself I wouldn't. I made the same cup of coffee, sat by the same window, watched the same sunrise. I tried to tell myself it was just another day, but deep down, I knew I was waiting for a call, waiting for something. Around lunchtime, I turned on the TV just for the noise. There was a cooking show playing. The host was baking a cake, a big fancy one with frosting piled high. And I remember laughing to myself, thinking, well, there's my birthday cake this year. Later that afternoon, I decided to go out. I hadn't been anywhere in a while, and I thought maybe a walk would do me good. The park down the street was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels soft, not empty. The leaves had started to fall, scattering across the path like little golden memories. I sat on a bench near the pond, watched the ducks swim by, and just breathed. I saw a young couple taking pictures nearby. The girl was laughing, holding a balloon that said, "Happy Birthday" on it. For a moment, I felt something tighten in my chest. Not jealousy exactly, just longing for that feeling of being seen, being celebrated, even just being remembered. When I got home, I made myself some soup and sat down to eat. The house felt even quieter after being outside. I could hear every creak in the floorboards, every hum from the refrigerator. I thought about calling one of the kids just to hear their voices, but I stopped myself. I didn't want to sound needy. That's one thing you learn as you get older. People don't like to feel guilty. So instead, I called an old friend, Marlene. We used to work together years ago. She's in her 80s now, living across town. She picked up on the second ring, her voice still sharp as ever. We talked about little things, her garden, the weather, the price of groceries. And before hanging up, she said, "Oh, by the way, happy birthday, sweetheart." I didn't forget. Those words, they melted something in me. I hadn't even told her. She just remembered. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, just holding the phone in my hand. It was such a small thing, really. A 2-minute call, but it filled that hollow space in my heart, if only for a moment. The next few years came and went. Holidays passed, grandkids grew taller, and I got slower. They'd visit now and then, mostly for Christmas or when they needed help with something. I'd always cook a big meal, make their favorite pies, and pretend like everything was the same. But deep down, it wasn't. I noticed things changing in ways I didn't want to admit. My children, my sweet babies who used to run into my arms every time they saw me, now only called when they had a question or needed a favor. Birthdays, anniversaries, little family milestones. They started happening without me. Social media made it worse, I think. Every once in a while, I'd see a picture pop up. My family out at dinner, celebrating someone else's birthday. There'd be big smiles, candles, laughter. I'd look at those photos and think, I used to be in those pictures once. It's strange how you can still love people, even when they start forgetting you. That's the hardest part, really, because no matter how much they drift away, your heart doesn't. I remember one year my youngest grandson, Tyler, came over with his mom. He must have been 12 at the time. We were sitting in the living room, watching a movie. And during one of the commercials, he turned to me and said, "Grandma, when's your birthday?" Just like that. So innocent. I smiled and said, "Oh, honey, it already passed." He frowned. "Oh, did we miss it?" I nodded gently and said, "That's okay. You're here now." He gave me a hug, and that was enough. That night after they left, I sat in my chair and thought about how the world keeps moving, even when your place in it gets smaller. It doesn't stop for you. It doesn't slow down. People change. Families grow apart. And the only thing that stays the same is the love you keep giving, even when it's not returned. I used to think being forgotten meant you didn't matter anymore. But now I think maybe it's just part of growing older. The world shifts, and suddenly, you're not in the center of it like you used to be. You become part of the background. Still loved, maybe, but quieter, fading softly into the edges. And yet, even as the years passed, every time my birthday came around, I still made myself a little cake, just a small one. Sometimes I'd light a candle, sometimes I wouldn't, but every time I'd whisper the same words I did that very first year. "Happy birthday, Evelyn." And somehow, that became enough. It was around my 76th birthday when something shifted. I didn't plan for anything that year. Didn't bake a cake, didn't expect a call. I told myself I was done caring. But deep down, I suppose we never really stopped caring. We just stopped saying it out loud. That morning, I woke up early, before the sun had even touched the curtains. The house felt cold, quieter than usual. I sat at the edge of my bed for a moment, rubbing my hands together, thinking about how birthdays used to mean laughter and noise. Kids running around, wrapping paper flying everywhere, the smell of chocolate frosting in the air. Now, the only sound was the tick of the clock. I went into the kitchen, made myself a cup of coffee, and opened the blinds. The sky was soft and pink, like it had been painted with a kind hand. I thought to myself, maybe that's my gift this year. Another sunrise. Funny how your standards change with age. A few hours later, I decided to walk down to the little diner at the corner. I hadn't been there in a while, but I used to go all the time when Harold was still alive. He loved their pancakes. Said no one made them better. When I pushed the door open, the bell jingled just like it always did. The smell of coffee and bacon filled the air, and for a moment I felt like I was stepping back in time. "Morning, Evelyn," the waitress said. It was Patty. She'd been working there forever. "Haven't seen you in a bit. How are you holding up?" "Oh, you know," I smiled. "Still kicking." She laughed and pointed to a booth by the window. "Your spot's open." I slid into that old booth, the same one Harold and I used to share. I could almost see him across from me, grinning over his plate. For a moment, it felt like he was still there. When Patty brought over my coffee, she leaned in and said, "Hey, I heard it's your birthday today." I blinked, surprised. "Who told you that?" She shrugged. "Small town, Evelyn. Word gets around." Then she grinned and added, "Your breakfast is on the house." I laughed, genuinely laughed. "Oh, Patty, you don't have to do that." "Too late," she said, winking. "You deserve a little something." So there I sat, eating my pancakes with extra syrup, thinking about how life works in funny little ways. Sometimes the people who barely know you are the ones who make you feel seen. When I left the diner, Patty handed me a small paper bag. "For later," she said. "Don't open it till you're home." I walked back slowly, the bag tucked under my arm. The wind had picked up, crisp and cool, rustling the leaves around my feet. I could smell fireplaces burning somewhere nearby. That cozy, smoky scent that always makes me think of winter evenings with family. When I got home, I sat at my kitchen table and opened the bag. Inside was a single cupcake with pink frosting and a little candle stuck right in the middle. On the napkin, Patty had written, "Happy birthday, Evelyn. Don't forget to make a wish." I stared at it for a long time. I don't even remember the last time someone gave me a birthday candle. So I lit it, watched the little flame flicker, and I made a wish. Not for anything big, not for youth or money, or a house full of laughter again. I just wished that, wherever my family was, they were happy. That night after dinner, I sat by the window like I always do. The phone stayed quiet. No calls, no messages, just me and the soft hum of the refrigerator in the background. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel angry or sad. I just felt at peace. Because even though no one had called, someone had remembered. Even if it was just a waitress at a small-town diner, it meant something. It reminded me that I still existed in this world, that I wasn't invisible. A few days later, I got a surprise in the mail. It was a letter from my grandson, Tyler, the same one who'd asked about my birthday years ago. He was in college now, studying out of state. The envelope had little smudges on it, like he'd been nervous writing it. "Dear Grandma," it started. "I hope you're doing okay. I was cleaning my dorm the other day and found that old photo of us at your house. The one where you're holding me when I was a baby. I don't remember that day, but Mom said it was my first birthday. You looked so happy. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you I miss you. I know I haven't been around much, but I think about you all the time." He ended it with, "I'm coming home for the holidays this year. Let's bake a cake together, okay?" I cried reading that letter. Quiet tears. The kind that fall before you even realize it. I held that piece of paper like it was made of gold. It's strange how one small thing can pull you back from that lonely edge. That letter did that for me. It reminded me that love doesn't disappear. It just gets quieter, sometimes lost in the noise of life. But it's still there. After that, I started writing letters too. To my kids, to my grandkids, even to old friends. I didn't wait for a reason anymore. I just wanted them to know I was thinking of them. Some wrote back, some didn't. But I found joy in the act of writing itself, in remembering stories, moments, little pieces of life that still made me smile. That next birthday came faster than I expected. I was turning 77. I didn't expect much, but I did buy myself a small bouquet of daisies, Harold's favorite. I put them in a vase right in the middle of the kitchen table. That morning, as I was fixing breakfast, the phone rang. Grandma. It was Tyler's voice. Well, look who remembered how to dial a phone. I teased. He laughed. "Happy birthday, Grandma." I didn't forget this time. I could hear people talking in the background. His roommates, probably. But he stayed on the phone for nearly an hour. We talked about everything. Classes, food, life. It felt normal, warm. When we hung up, I sat there smiling, my coffee growing cold on the table. Because sometimes, one simple call is all it takes to feel loved again. And that day, I did. After that birthday call from Tyler, something inside me softened. It wasn't like everything changed overnight. No, not at all. But it was like a little crack had opened in the wall I'd built around myself. And through that crack, a bit of light slipped in. I started going out more. Not much, just small steps. A walk to the park in the mornings. Sitting on the bench near the pond, where the ducks gathered. Sometimes I'd bring a small bag of crumbs from old bread, tossing them gently into the water. The ducks would flap and waddle over, and I'd laugh quietly to myself. The sound of life, simple and unfiltered. There's something healing about being around living things. They don't judge you. They don't ask questions. They just exist. One morning, while I was sitting on that same bench, an older man sat down beside me. He wore a worn-out brown hat and had a small dog on a leash. The dog, a scruffy little thing with floppy ears, came right up to me and rested its chin on my knee. "Well, hello there," I said, reaching down to pet him. The man smiled. "He likes you. Don't do that with just anyone." "What's his name?" I asked. "Rusty," he replied. And I'm George. We talked for a while, about the weather, about how the town had changed, about how the ducks seemed fatter this year. Nothing deep, just easy conversation between two strangers who didn't feel like strangers anymore. From that day on, George and I would often see each other at the park. We never planned it. We just seemed to arrive around the same time. He'd bring Rusty, and I'd bring crumbs. Sometimes we'd sit in silence. Sometimes we'd talk about everything and nothing. It was nice, comfortable. One chilly afternoon, as the leaves began to turn gold and red, George said, "You know, it's funny how the older we get, the less we talk, but the more we understand." I nodded. I think when you've lived long enough, silence becomes a kind of language too. He smiled. "You're right about that." We started meeting for coffee after our walks. There was a small bakery near the park. One of those cozy places with mismatched chairs and the smell of cinnamon everywhere. The lady behind the counter always gave Rusty a biscuit. It became our little ritual. Coffee, laughter, quiet moments. I hadn't realized how much I missed simple company. The kind that doesn't drain you or demand anything. Just two people existing in the same moment, sharing the same silence. One day, George asked, "Do you have family around here?" I hesitated. "I do, but we don't talk much these days." He nodded slowly, not pressing further. "Family's a funny thing," he said after a pause. "Sometimes the people who should know us best barely do." That hit me, not in a painful way, more like a gentle truth that I'd been avoiding. Over time, our conversations deepened. He told me about his late wife, Martha, how she used to sing in the kitchen every morning, even when she burned the toast. How he still kept her old garden alive just to feel close to her. I shared my stories too. About Harold, about raising kids, about the summers when the house used to echo with laughter. We'd sit there for hours, trading memories like old keepsakes. Sometimes I'd catch myself laughing again. Really laughing. The kind that comes from your chest, not your face. And every time I'd think, Harold would have liked George. Around Christmas that year, the town held a small community gathering. Just carols, coffee, and cookies. Nothing fancy. George insisted I come along. "Oh, I don't know," I said, waving him off. "It's been years since I went to one of those things." "All the more reason," he said, smiling. "Come on, Evelyn. You can't let the world forget you're still here." So I went. The hall was warm and bright, filled with people of all ages. Families, kids, a few familiar faces from years ago. The choir sang Silent Night, and I found myself humming along, my voice shaky but sure. At one point, a little girl ran past and bumped into me, nearly spilling her cocoa. Her mother hurried over, apologizing, but I just smiled. "It's all right," I said. "No harm done." The girl looked up at me, grinning, her face smeared with chocolate. "Merry Christmas, lady," I laughed. "Merry Christmas to you too, sweetheart." And in that moment, standing there under the soft glow of twinkling lights, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Belonging. Later that evening, as George walked me home, snow began to fall. The streetlights caught the flakes as they drifted down, turning everything silver and soft. "You know," he said quietly, "life's got a funny way of giving us second chances. We just have to be willing to take them." I looked up at the falling snow, then at him. "Maybe this is mine," I whispered. He smiled, tipping his hat. "Then don't waste it." That night, as I sat by my window, watching the snow pile up outside, I thought about his words. Second chances. Maybe I had been given one. Not to change the past, but to live what was left with a little more heart. So I started saying yes to small things again. Sunday markets, book club meetings, helping at the church bake sale. I baked cookies for the first time in years. They turned out terrible, but nobody cared. They just laughed and ate them anyway. And slowly, life didn't feel so heavy anymore. It wasn't perfect. Some days were still quiet, still lonely. But even in the silence, there was a new kind of peace, a knowing that I was still part of something, no matter how small. Because sometimes, it's not the family you're born into that saves you. It's the people you stumble upon, sitting on a park bench with a scruffy dog and a kind smile. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Spring came quietly that year. I could tell because the light started to change. It lingered a little longer through the curtains in the morning, and the air had that faint scent of earth waking up again. By then, George and I had fallen into a comfortable rhythm. Morning walks, coffee at the bakery, sharing little pieces of our lives as naturally as breathing. Rusty would wag his tail every time he saw me, and I swear, sometimes I felt like that dog understood me better than most people. One morning, as we sat by the pond, watching the ducks glide across the water, George said, "You seem lighter lately." "Do I?" I asked, smiling faintly. He nodded. "When I first met you, you carried something heavy. Still do, maybe, but it's not weighing you down like before." I looked at the ripples on the water. I think I just stopped waiting for people to make me feel seen and started seeing myself again. He smiled softly. "That's a hard thing to do." "It is," I said, "but necessary." After that conversation, I began journaling again. I hadn't written much since Harold passed. I always thought, what was the point? But now, the words started to come back, slowly at first, like an old friend returning after years apart. I wrote about the seasons changing, about the smell of rain on the porch steps, about my family, not with anger anymore, but with a kind of distant tenderness. Maybe time doesn't heal everything, but it does make the sharp edges a little duller. Sometimes I'd find myself writing to Harold, too. I'd tell him about George, about Rusty, about the way the mornings looked when the sun broke through the clouds. I'd tell him that I missed him. Not in the same aching way I once did, but like you miss a song you used to hum without thinking. One afternoon, I decided to bake a cake. Just a simple yellow cake with chocolate frosting. Harold's favorite. I hadn't baked one in years. But something about that day felt right. As the house filled with that sweet, warm smell, I thought back to all the birthdays we used to celebrate. The laughter, the candles, the way Harold would always pretend to blow them out before me, just to make me laugh. And I realized something. Maybe birthdays aren't meant to be about who remembers you. Maybe they're about remembering yourself. So I lit a single candle, placed it in the middle of the cake, and whispered to the quiet room, "Happy birthday, Evelyn." I laughed a little as the candle flickered, then went out. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel forgotten. I felt whole. A few weeks later, my daughter called. "Mom," she said, her voice hesitant. "Tyler's graduating next month. We'd love for you to come." I froze for a moment. It had been so long since I'd been invited to anything that I didn't know how to respond. "I'd love that," I finally said. My voice cracked a little. But I meant it. When the day came, I wore my best blue dress. The one Harold always said brought out my eyes. The drive there felt long, my hands gripping the steering wheel tighter than usual. When I arrived, my daughter hugged me. Really hugged me. Not the kind where you pat each other's backs and move away quickly, but the kind that lingers, like you're both trying to say something words can't. "I'm sorry, Mom," she whispered, "for a lot of things." I didn't need her to list them. I just held her a little tighter. "I know," I said. "Me too. The ceremony was beautiful. Tyler looked so grown up, so full of life and promise." I caught him looking out into the crowd, and when his eyes met mine, he smiled. That big, goofy grin I remembered from his childhood. And in that instant, every lonely birthday, every quiet Christmas, every tear I'd shed in the dark, it all seemed to fade into something softer, something almost worth it. Afterward, we all went out for dinner. There was laughter again, stories, little jokes about the past. It wasn't perfect. Families never are. But it was enough. As the evening ended, I stepped outside for some air. The sky was painted in pinks and oranges, the sun setting behind the hills. George's words echoed in my mind. Life's got a funny way of giving us second chances. I smiled, feeling the truth of it settle deep inside me. Later that night, back home, I sat by my window again. The same window I'd stared out of so many nights before, when loneliness felt like a weight on my chest. But now, it felt different, lighter. I looked at the photo of Harold on the mantel and whispered, "You were right, love. Life does go on." The clock ticked softly in the background. Rusty's leash hung by the door, ready for another morning walk. And as I sat there in the quiet hum of the house, I realized something. Being remembered isn't about dates on a calendar. It's about the lives you've touched, the hearts you've helped mend, the laughter you've shared, even when it faded with time. I may not have had the kind of life I once dreamed of, but it was mine, full of mistakes, love, loss, and small miracles. And I was still here to tell the story. So if anyone's listening, anyone's sitting alone tonight wondering if they still matter, you do. You always have. Don't let the silence make you forget that. And if my story made you feel even a little less alone, then maybe that's my gift. Maybe that's why I'm still here. Thank you for listening to me. And if you can, before you go, leave a small piece of kindness behind. Like, share, or subscribe. Not just for me, but for all the stories like mine that deserve to be remembered. Because sometimes, all we really need is to be seen again.